All right, so the reason we're doing the Schultz cast at 6:55 on a Memorial Day holiday weekend, I couldn't sleep. I got a bunch of sleep Saturday night into Sunday, like more than 8 hours. Couldn't fall asleep last night. I went to bed at 10. Rollovers 11:30. Went to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom at 12:30. Then maybe 3. I'm not sure I slept a half an hour at a time last night. So we'll take a little nap later today. I was so proud of myself for sleeping in on Saturday morning. And sleeping in on Saturday morning means 8:30. I went to bed at 11. Like 7 hours of sleep is good for me. 6 hours of sleep is pretty good. But you get 8 on a weekend, and I don't go to bed that late, and I don't sleep in that late. So, like I said, no one's gonna be on the show, so it'll replay later. Probably could have done it a little bit later. All right, it is episode 44 of the Schultz cast. A tragedy at golf. We'll talk about that later, and we'll talk about it from the broadcasting side of things. You just you don't equate a death with golf, right? It's not, no one's putting their life in danger outside of maybe a thunderstorm or lightning, but it's not like auto racing where they know that can happen despite all safety precautions. And so I thought Jim Nance and Amanda Bulbis handled it with incredible grace. Cajuns waiting for NCAAs. We'll see where they land. Are they on the They're not on the proverbial bubble, are they? They're like 38. Did it change yesterday between last night and today? They certainly didn't do themselves any favors in Montgomery. They just didn't play very much. They are 38. All right. They didn't even go down all that far. They went from 36 to 38. But LSU had a heck of a run. And I did get into a conversation, and they ended up being right, with Arizona fans that despite the KPI and the RPI that they should host. And I guess the guys on the SEC game thought they should host. It's amazing that all the teams that they thought they should host. I didn't hear the teams that they didn't think should host. And I don't think LSU should have hosted. Even if they won, I don't think they were going to host. LSU turned their season around, right? It kind of started with Missouri, and then Auburn, and then A&M. Had a little blip against Alabama. And, swept Ole Miss and made a great run in Hoover. Now, I don't happen to think they have a whole lot of pitching once you get past the first two. I think Gage Jump and Luke Holman are as good as anybody. Maybe their bats are going to have to come through, right? They scored over 40 runs in the first 3 games of the championship in SEC, right? Came up a little short yesterday. And certainly the lesson that Jay Johnson taught them, and sometimes you have to learn on your own, right? And I don't think they did this against Ole Miss. I think they just went out and beat Ole Miss. Was no matter how far behind, we're always in the game. Don't give up, right? I mean, they were doing nothing, and it was 4-1 in the 9th, and you tell Jay Johnson or LSU we got 1 on and 2 out, or I'm sorry, 1 on, 1 out, we're down by 1, we're going to tie the game, maybe even take the lead. And, Tennessee pitcher made a couple of really good pitches. But it was, I still thought I think I was behind my buddy who I was texting because I think he told me the game was over. I thought he was behind because he was like, oh my God, I can't believe LSU just gave up the lead. And I said, oh, that was with the call. Strange call, right? That's just a ridiculous call against Milazzo in the 9th or in the 10th, whenever it was. And I think everybody was confused about that call. I'm not even sure I have the right explanation just yet about the call. Was he in front of home plate? And then he didn't touch home plate, the runner. And, just you can't review that play. Why can't you review that call? Is it the home plate umpire making that call? Because he doesn't have the best view of it. when you can see from the front of it. He's looking from the back of it. Then they say they didn't challenge it in time. That was crazy. And then I said, LSU's still going to win. Ball don't lie. And then Milam hits a jack. So, again, I don't happen to think. First of all, I will say I thought LSU was going the whole way. Now, of course, they sweep Ole Miss. I thought they were in when they swept Ole Miss. They're going to get a 2 seed. It'd be interesting, if they send LSU out to Arizona. What was Arizona? What was Arizona? That was where the conversation was yesterday. Let me see here. NCAA hosts. Is Arizona, are they 16? Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't rank them. They're alphabetical. Let me see here. Omaha.com. Are they just alphabetical? No. You need a subscription. Let's see. D1 baseball. Probably going to need a description there. Yeah, they are alphabetical. So they're not. We don't know where Arizona is. But, Fletcher Mackel of WDSU down there in New Orleans suggested, are they going to send Jay Johnson back out to Arizona? I can't help the numbers, right? Arizona had a 30 RPI and a 31 RPI and a 30 KPI. They did win the regular season and the conference tournament for the Pac-12, and they had the number 1 out of conference schedule in America. Got a little bit lucky. San Diego ends up being really good. La Tech ends up being really good. Should be mentioned that the reason the Cajun schedule, on the side note, is up to 84. Like, they've been under 100 or over 100 for most of the season. But the reason that their non-conference schedule continues to improve is because LSU wins, gets all the way to the championship game, right? Are they top 20 RPI? Where are they? Where's LSU? LSU's 22. All right. Doesn't hurt that Southern Miss is your Sun Belt champion, and the Cajuns took 2 out of 3 from Southern Miss. They're 26. All right. And then you get Nichols, who's going to be further down, but they're up to 61. They win the Southland Conference tournament. They moved up 17 spots. They went from 78 to 61. Pretty good. And then there's somebody else. Nichols, LSU. Oh, and La Tech played for the conference championship. They're up to 29, although they fell 3 spots. So that's how the Cajuns' schedule went up. Anyways, I just didn't think Arkansas needed to schedule that way because the Pac-12 stinks overall. They have like 3 top 50 teams. They're 2 of the 3 hardest series that Arizona played was San Diego, which is 19, I guess, and La Tech. They lost 2 out of 3 to San Diego and swept La Tech, which was, oddly enough, the Cajuns fans were mocking La Tech for losing a late lead when that game would help the Cajuns at the time. And we'll see if it has. All right. I cannot imagine that the Cajuns in the 5th toughest conference winning the regular season, but having a bad weekend, are not making it. The reaction from Cajuns fans of somehow not making this tournament would be apoplectic if somehow they didn't get in and some, middling average SEC team got in, like in Alabama or something. So we'll see what LSU can do. Again, if the LSU can go 2-0 in a regional, they're in good shape. If they have to play 4 or 5 games in a regional, it could be issues. Now, if the bats stay as hot as they were and the bats are smoking, I'll take my chances, right? We'll take our chances because, if Luke Holman is going up against, I'm going to say the ace There's a good shot. Okay, so it's not going to really matter if LSU is a 2 or 3 seed. What does that matter? That they're the home team to begin with, which is an advantage, but that doesn't really matter. They're going to play somebody basically on their level. I just thought, back in the day, like Paul Maneri watching, wouldn't necessarily start his ace against, the 4 seed in the regional. And so are they going to start? Here you go. Are they going to, I don't know if you want to roll the dice. Are you going to start, Gage Jump against the 4 seed? I probably, because that's what's been working. And with baseball, you don't want to, roll the dice, because the other team, every team, and the Cajuns will tell you this, every team has one dude. Unless that dude got hurt recently, they all got one dude. And, if he's on, and sometimes you don't know who the dude is, right? I mean, Georgia Southern's Mitchell Gross just pitched a complete game, victory in the semifinals to get them to, past JMU, and, gave up one unearned run, big spot. So, and and here's the other thing, right? Well, you can't know. So LSU's not going to do that. I'm confusing myself. LSU won't do that because they're going to play the 3 seed. So you can't do that. And so, so they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to go with Gage Jump. I don't know why I confused myself. They're going to be in the box, or obviously not. So they're going to pitch Gage Jump to begin with. And then Luke Holman will probably be going up against the host team. I'll take my chances with that. You got as good as 1-2 punch as you got in the nation. The problem is there is a severe drop off in the number 3 spot. The bats were hot. That's what got them past, into the championship round. The pitching was not that great after the first 2 guys. So we'll see. But, LSU, it'll be interesting to see what LSU fans, right? I mean, LSU fans, like a month ago, were thinking that Jay Johnson, I don't know if it was going to be fired, but, it was like a 1-year deal. It was like they Dylan Cruz was here, but they went out and bought Paul Skeens, and, memories are short, because LSU just didn't have a whole lot of pitching heading into that conference tournament last year, or the NCAAs. Right? There was like, who, forget about the 1-2. Who's the 2? It was Paul Skeens and whomever. And then everybody just, Guidry and Hurd and others just started stepping up. And so they actually have more, although I'm not sure if they're as deep this year as they have been. But it's certainly going to be fun. And in this case, LSU is going to go on the road and probably be an underdog. I mean, how often is LSU an underdog when it comes to college baseball? Didn't they go out? They had that. What was Auburn? Didn't they go out west? And did they beat Oregon State? I think they beat Oregon State. They went out west. And ended up beating them, like it was Maneri's last go around. Didn't they beat them? Is memory serving me right? Is that correct? All right, so LSU has a great run, and they're in good shape. I don't know about the Cajuns. Kevin Foote wrote, well, maybe a rest is good, and losing 2 in a row. I don't think that's right. There's a couple things going on. Okay. We don't know if Andrew Herman is hurt. All right. I happen to think LP Langevin is exhausted. He may be going through dead arm. He is just not as sharp. In his last 5 outings, he's given up 13 earned runs. Last 5 Sunbelt outings, he's gone from a 0.7 ERA to an 8 ERA. If the Cajuns go into this regional and wanting LP Langevin to throw more than 2 innings, that's a mistake. I'm going to call that right now. You got 30 pitches or so. 35 pitches. You try to go 45 or 50 pitches with Langevin, because that's what you've been doing this year, you're not paying attention. All right. And as somebody who is into analytics, these are not analytics. This is just straight stats. Obviously, everyone's rested because, they only played 2 ball games. But They got to figure out who's the guys coming out. McGehee came out of the bullpen and, gave it right up. Marshall pitched well. J.R. Tollett pitched well. So we'll see who comes out of the bullpen. And David Christie seems to be relatively reliable. I know he gave up the 3-run home run, but should have been out of the inning with the error. We'll see. I mean, if you have, let's be honest, if you have Herman, Morgan, and Fluno, then we can figure out how to get 15 to 20 innings, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but apparently it is. If you can get 15 to 20 innings out of that, then you can compete. Like the Cajuns, as of a couple of weeks ago, had enough pitching in a regional. And now they don't. I don't know what happened. And now they don't. That's an issue. They got to secure the defense. And, here's going to be the difference, right, between LSU and the Cajuns is that, and it is the same thing with LSU, but they have more depth in their lineup with their bats than the Cajuns do. The Cajuns are going to go as far as that pitching rotation takes them. I could say the same thing for LSU at the end, but we just saw the bats come through for LSU in a couple of ball games where their pitching was not very good. I really haven't seen that a whole lot for the Cajuns. Even when, they were winning 16 in a row, they would get clutch hit after clutch base hit, but usually it was the pitching that, limited the opponents. And so we'll see. I like the lineup. Stelly's all of a sudden in center field. That's been that way for a few weeks, certainly. Broussard's in the lineup. Josh Alexander apparently played his way off the roster. And so the lineup's been pretty consistent here as of recently. So we'll see what happens, and we will see where the Cajuns end up. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. It doesn't really matter if they're a 2 or 3 seed in my book, right? You'd almost, if you could get a better, I'd rather be a 3 seed outside of being a 2 seed in Knoxville, right? I'd rather be in someone's, 10 through 16 host site than be the worst 2 seed, technically. I wouldn't want that. No, let's see what they can do. One thing that did stick out watching the Sun Belt Conference tournament is that they have an attendance issue. And by the way, it's not just the Sun Belt, okay? I get the SEC. It maybe just means more. They have a huge tradition of being in one spot. And obviously they do draw, okay? But I don't think the ACC draws, and that's in Charlotte. What more do you want? I don't think the Big Ten draws. I don't even know where that was, but I saw pictures of that. But the Sun Belt doesn't draw. I will say it did appear, if you were looking at home plate yesterday, the crowd didn't look good, watching from the pitcher's back. But I saw somebody take a picture of all the Southern Miss fans that were trying to sit under the awning because it was hot. I don't know if 500 or 1,000 people showed up. It wasn't bad. I tell you, that was the biggest crowd they had all week. And outside of going to Biloxi, I don't have an answer. That seems like the easy answer, but I'm not sure if Biloxi wants them or needs them. It's a holiday weekend. It is the unofficial start of summer. It's a huge weekend for Biloxi. So you're going to set aside 3 or 4 hotels for 10 teams, and all these teams are going to leave except 4 by Saturday. That's not going to work. I don't know, but I would presume that these hotels have at least a minimum of a 3-night stay, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and people come home on Monday. Now a lot of the tournament, right, is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so a lot of those teams could be eliminated, and you don't know. But you're playing it by ear, so I don't know if Biloxi needs it. It's still a AA stadium right there on the Strip. If you've been there, obviously, was it the Shuckers? Biloxi Shuckers play there. That would seem to be the easy answer, but I'm not sure if that's quite as easy. And I don't think it needs to be played on a home field, right? I mean, what happens if they played it in San Marcos this year and Texas State wasn't even in the tournament? Well, what no one's going to show up. And no Southern Miss fans would have been there. No one's Southern Miss fans driving that far. So I don't have a real answer for it. I did suggest this on Locked On Sunbelt. The Sunbelt needs to invest in going to the site. They need to do basketball and have the announcers there. It would take a little bit more money because you're going to have more than just, Matt Stewart and Ty Harrington in case something goes wrong with the audio or the video, right? So it's going to take a little bit more, but I don't think the Sun Belt is maximizing their in studio capabilities. They should have like a weekly show, get it sponsored. You're focusing on football, basketball, baseball, and softball, and then you can do, Olympic sports. Maybe you hire a reporter to go from school to school to school. I think they had that before. And now you have a weekly show that you're doing from the beginning of August through mid-June. You can certainly make that work. And then you have the guys or the women, who's ever doing it, right? Softball needs to be on site. Basketball needs to be on site. Baseball needs to be on site. Just to take advantage of that. And you can even still control it from, New Orleans, but it just doesn't look good when, the announcers are not at the ballpark. I don't know why that is. You just don't get a flavor for the ballpark. Not that there's a crowd anyways, but that's what I would do. I would spend a little bit more money and send them to the ballpark. And do it that way. All right, it is episode 44. We actually have 18 people up early on a Monday holiday weekend. Hopefully it's a good one. I am through I think I'm in episode 6 of my annual watching Band of Brothers. They are in Bastogne. We're in the Doc Rowe episode. And he's from Louisiana. And I forget what he says, what his grandmother was. Let me see here. He calls her something. Doc Rowe, Band of Brothers, Eugene Rowe fandom. Eugene was born in Bayou Chene in real life. Yeah, Bayou Chene in 22. But he said his grandmother was something. Let me see here. No. Later in life, Rowe became a construction contractor, married a British woman named Vera, and they had one son together, Eugene Rowe Jr. Eugene and Vera divorced after 27 years. Again, these are all real people. But he said his grandmother was something like, let me see. Band of Brothers, grandma. Like some sort of witch doctor or something like that. Or a traiteur. There you go. Is that what it says? A traiteur? Not a traitor, but a traiteur. If I could find the word, I could Google it. Anyways, that's where we're watching Band of Brothers, as we always do. God, I'm the first to admit it. There's no way I'd be able to handle anything like that. I'm not even sure going through the physical training would be one thing, but pressure under fire? Right? I mean, unfortunately, I'm a guy who likes to know why. There is no why when you're under fire. You do what you are told immediately. God, what it would be like to be in that situation. So And then, you see these lieutenants together, right? It was major winners, these lieutenant winners. And then Lewis Nixon, and then Welsh, Moose Heidegger. I don't know who the crazy lieutenant was, but these guys were all in their 20s, right? None of these guys were in their 30s. I think they were all, recent college graduates, and they are basically the brain trust of the 506. And they did, they did a good job, right? And winners got promoted all the way to major. Wanted to go to the Pacific, but I think the general said, "You've done enough. Thank you for your service." And again, I think I've told this before. I'm not on the air. I was so disappointed. I didn't get into Band of Brothers when it first started. I just, there's not a whole lot. There's like 2 episodes with a lot of shooting. And I'm not a Bloods and Guts guy, like the second episode, which would have been D-Day. And then when they ambushed, the Germans. So I missed it the first time around. When I watched it again, found out that Dick Winters found his little piece of heaven in Hershey, PA, and I have a talk show there, and was the voice of the Harrisburg Senators, and didn't go meet Dick Winters. This would have been, he was still around. He's no longer with us, but the thing came out in 2000. I was there in 2004. Oh, it would have been great. I'm sure I had a show on Veterans Day. Could have come on the radio with me then. It would have been phenomenal. Anyways, that's what I'm watching. Along with the baseball, I did watch LSU on Saturday and Sunday. Although not a lot of it on Sunday. I watched the end of it. And then I watched the Georgia Southern Miss ball game. That was crazy. We haven't even actually talked about that. Southern Miss, the Sun Belt champs. They had a great tournament. Georgia Southern had a great tournament. I think 4 Sun Belt teams are in. We'll see. I think it is Southern Miss, obviously, the Cajuns. I think JMU and Coastal are in. I think Georgia Southern would have knocked one of those teams out. I don't think Troy is in. Troy is, if you're putting Arizona as a host because they got the number 1 overall out-of-conference schedule, how does Troy get in with the 219th out-of-conference schedule? Right? That's why that's important. Now, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. Right? I guess Rice was supposed to be better. Houston was supposed to be better. Turns out La Tech was really good. Although that's more of a convenience and rivalry matchup anyways. The Cajuns should play La Tech every year. It's just too easy. I like that it's home and home. Weekend series would be nice though. Early on in the season. We've talked about this. The Cajuns lost to Houston Christian or Houston Baptist. Houston Christian. And they lost to Rice, and they shouldn't have lost 2 out of 3. I don't think you should sweep. I don't think back in the day it had to be St. Francis, right? They lost a chance to play in the NCAAs because they had a bad RPI because St. Francis didn't win a game all year, so that doesn't help. They lost to Rice, they lost to Houston, and they lost to Houston Baptist. And if they beat those 3 teams and had 43 wins, they'd be sitting probably close to a top 30 RPI, right? And we wouldn't be a little nervous with a 38 RPI. That's kind of not where I wanted to be. And then to me, that's kind of bubble-ish. But with the way the Sun Belt is, I don't think they're going to hold a bad weekend against the Cajuns, not putting them in. You may not make them a 2 seed, but at this point, it doesn't really matter because they're not hosting. This is not a difference of, boy, the Cajuns, were sitting at 20, and if they win the tournament, they could host, and they went 0 for 2, so now they're not going to host. That's not where they were, right? It's a 2 or 3 seed, and at this point in time, like I said, I'd rather be a 3 seed. So we still got lots of baseball to go. The big news of the weekend, obviously, was the tragedy of Grayson Murray, the golfer who apparently, according to his parents, did take his own life. Again, something that you just don't associate golf with. When the legends pass, they're all older, right? There's one guy who just passed away. He was like 100. And Grayson Murray had fought his demons, and then He was an alcoholic and got over that, found faith. And you just don't know, because he had been playing well. He won earlier in the year. That's a huge deal, right? Now you're exempt. Now you're exempt for like 3 years, as it turns out. Something along those lines. And he had I think he had like a top 15 finish, maybe a little bit better at the Wells Fargo, and he made the cut with the PGA. But all of a sudden, he had 3 straight bogeys and walked off the course on Friday, and maybe that triggered something. Who knows? Really a sad story. But Jim Nantz comes on. You don't have a great big Open. I don't think it came out much beforehand. Like the thing was announced, I'm pretty sure it was afternoon. This was in Colonial Dallas. I think it was afternoon. They came on the air at 2. So somewhere, it came on while they were probably rehearsing. It was emailed out, and Jim Nantz handled it with all the professionalism and aplomb and grace and sympathy that you can. The Murrays suggested to play, which I think the PGA actually gave consideration not to play. And the Murray said, no, he would want you to play. And then you had Webb Simpson come on, Peter Milani. I don't even know who Peter is. And they were close. Webb Simpson says he's known him forever. Peter had the funny story that college and Grayson Murray did not mix, admittedly. But the longtime Wake Forest coach said, of all the guys that I had, the most talented was Grayson Murray, and said that way before this. But he only got him for a semester because, apparently studying wasn't Grayson's thing. Really too bad. Just 30 years old, has a fiance, And then we find out. I guess it trickled out over the weekend. I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know Stan Van Gundy's wife had passed away. He's on the Dan Le Batard show all the time, and I don't think that came up. And then we found out his wife took her life. And that is as tragic as Grayson is. This is supposed to be the best part of her life. Are they in their 60s? Right? She's got grown kids. She's got grandkids. Finances are not an issue, right? Stan is announcing, whether he's being criticized or that or not. So what? He's sleeping, right? We're not stewing over losses or anything like that. And this was supposed to be the best. Like, she could travel with him when she wants to. She could stay at home, go to the grandkids. And this was supposed to be the best time for her. But he said that she was struggling and didn't know how bad. And he said he was with her since he's been 24. And he's right. He never imagined a day without her. Certainly not in your 60s. And, maybe when you get to the 80s, you realize we're running out of time. But really sad, real tragedy. And didn't know that at all. Did not know that at all. And for Stan to go on there and to tell Dan Le Batard is pretty good. Now, Dan lost his brother. Brother was sick. The brother was held from us as well, right? Dan always talks about, starting, Meadowlark Media while his brother was dying, which we did not know. No, until he died. And then Dan missed a couple shows and let us know. But just a total tragedy, those two things. And I do wonder this, because we hear about suicide a lot more. Is that just because it's on social media and everyone is sharing? Or is suicide more prevalent? I don't know. Because it does seem like we hear about it a lot more than we used to. And it is just sad. It's just sad. Again, I thought Amanda did a really good job. Peter Milani. I thought she was going to give him her hand. And I don't know if it was because his left hand, which was next to her, had the microphone in it. And her putting her hand on his knee may have been inappropriate. But a lot of times when you just get that hand, like, it's okay. Take your time. And, we'll get through this. And certainly made for riveting TV, but just a real shame. And CBS did as good a job as you could. And obviously people were emotional because it's something, the golf is the one sport, I guess, along with baseball, right? Like, you have a bunch of time to think about it, right? Like, you're playing, I guess in football, you got time to put, depending on the side, of the field that you're on. With basketball, you'd have no time to think about it, right? Unless you're sitting on the bench. In golf, the only thing you have is time to think about it. I wonder if has anybody figured out how long it takes to play around the golf with just the swings? Is that like 20 minutes? Is it even 20 minutes? Probably a little bit, yeah. Maybe half an hour. Well, if you're making 70 swings, that'll take a minute, and you're putting. So maybe it's just over an hour. Although that could be 30 seconds. But yeah, the only, after every swing, you're just thinking about it, right? And I guess someone went out and got red and black ribbons. So they wore that yesterday. So good stuff. Okay. All right. So, Schultz weight loss project. We are down to 208, which is 22 pounds since July 14th. Not July 14th, February 14th. Sorry. Since Valentine's Day. But my body weight is too fat. Compared to March of 23, when I was 2 pounds more. Or no, I'm sorry. In March of 23, so I weighed myself at Orange Theory. So at Orange Theory, I was 208. But in March of 23, I was, I was 210 at Orange Theory, 208 in March of 23 at Orange Theory, but 5% difference in body fat. So I don't know what's going on. All right. I am trying little protein smoothie after lifting. We may go, I'm a little full. We'll see. May go run here. I have started running a second time, really a rather easy, certainly not difficult, 25, 30-minute run in the neighborhood. Running outside is by far the best exercise I do. Although the Orange Theory workouts have been great. But we're down to 208. We'll be going home in about a month or so. Can I get down to 200? That'd be 30 pounds. 5.5 months, March, April, May, June, 4.5 months. That'd be good. That's a lot of weight. That's a ton of weight. So we're doing good with that. I've done my own ab work. Again, I'm not getting flat abs. That's not the idea. But it does help you with the waist. Pants fit better. But I did usually I do my own abs. But I followed the YouTube thing. I do Carolyn Gervin. Yeah, 10 minutes. Forget the 10 minutes of ab work she was doing. 2 or 3 minutes was brutal. Tells you I got ways to go. So there's always room for improvement. It's nice to know that I can still got a ton of room for improvement, and things can get even better. So we have lost a bunch of weight. That's good. That makes me happy. So that gives you a little bit of confidence as well. The jeans fit better. Shirts fit better. Man boobs aren't, too tight. And yet I could still lose. We're still trying to lose to be 195 by, in this case, August 31st. So was that 3 months? June, July, August. So 3 months. See, it's not that much. It's 13 pounds. In 12 weeks? Is that a lot? I don't think so. The problem is going home is going to be an issue. That's going to be the problem. Mama Schultz is going to cook for me, whether it be, meals or desserts. That's the problem. Like, I blame my sister-in-law for me I came home, I weighed 217 from Louisville. I don't know about this. Can you take off 9 pounds in less than a week? I mean, I went from 217 to 208. Come on. So I don't know how accurate the scale is, but all I can go by is the scale, and that's what the scale says. So we're looking forward to I don't mind saying it. The favorite part of my day, sadly enough, is seeing White White after I work out. So we're gonna see if we get another run in now. I'm gonna post the Locked On Sunbelt to Facebook groups, and then maybe go out 8. We'll be at the watch party today for the Cajuns. That's at 11. So we'll make our way over there at 10:30. And then we'll come back and post those videos. Probably could make some graphics for the Sunbelt teams that got in. Probably ready with 4 or 5. I don't think Georgia Southern's getting in, but we'll be ready for Troy, but I don't think they're getting in. I think it's going to be, again, the Cajuns, Southern Miss, Coastal, and JMU. That's what I think. So, all right. Have a great day. All right. Be safe. Thank you for those who served and, gave the ultimate sacrifice so we could be sitting here talking about sports. It is amazing. It is amazing. All right. We'll be back again tomorrow, and enjoy your day off if you have one. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please subscribe. Also, we're almost at 1,240 subscribers over at Locked On Sunbelt. So really appreciate everybody who's doing it over there as well. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.